a president. My name is Duke Mensah Opoku. This is the chamber where we bring you all you need to know about what transpires in Parliament every week. We'll take a break here. When I come back, there is more on this program. You're welcome back from the break. Now, Parliament, the 7th Parliament dissolved to make way for the inauguration of the 8th Parliament this week. So this program spans the lives of 2 parliaments, the late life of the 7th Parliament and the early life of the 8th Parliament. There is more in the recap as we bring you the major issues that transpired on the floor of Parliament.
I woke up this morning to some blaze of news in the social media. Haruna Idrisu and minority MPs to appear before court. Let me state emphatically that the minority leader and members of the NDC in Parliament are an integral part and members of the NDC party, the National Democratic Congress, and we are law-abiding citizens of Ghana. Regrettably, we don't respond and will not respond to social media invitations by the Ghana Police Service. I have not been personally served, as is the requirement of the law, and many of my colleagues, and therefore I should only be walking to court if there was personal service of that writ of summons. But I should presume, without fear of contradiction, that the Ghana Police Service is allowing itself to be used as a tool of manipulation. I've repeatedly told you that I am not a coward, and I don't intend ever to be cowed by any machination by any person, including the Ghana Police Service. They have some confusion in their mind. They should seek to resolve the confusion. The Ghana Police Service.
On midnight of 7 January, the Clerk of Parliament will chair the first meeting of the House, ushering the country into the 8th Parliament under the 4th Republican Constitution. His primary role will be to oversee the election of a Speaker. Per Ghana's Constitution, MPs elect may, before taking the oath of allegiance and the oath of a member of Parliament, partake in the election of a Speaker. Ordinarily, the clerk acting as chairman will open the floor for nominations to be made. But with disagreements still lingering on who holds majority in Parliament, it is expected that leadership of the 2 sides will settle the score on that before the election is held for the position of a Speaker. A dress rehearsal of what might happen was exhibited at the last State of the Nation address when the NPP and NDC caucuses in Parliament locked horns on how the majority in Parliament should be determined.
He didn't win Parliament, nothing more. He should respect the principle and notion and practical operation of the doctrine of separation of powers. He's an executive president. He lost Parliament. He lost it. He's just forcing to add Techima and to add Sepsi, as you saw, and it's disappointing.
Official figures from the Electoral Commission, which will be the basic data for determining the majority caucus in Parliament, puts the NPP and NDC at 137 seats each, with an independent member of Parliament breaking the tie. First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu, who was an independent MP in the 3rd Parliament, says the choice of the independent MP will separate the 2 sides. The Fomena MP already has pledged allegiance to the NPP side of the House.
The results which are certified is the only result which anybody can speak to. After that, the court can change the results of any other one. Until then, every other thing is speculation. Whoever the independent member sits with forms the majority. Usually you're giving indication. I have contested independent before. You're giving the option where you choose to sit. And so that will be, he will give that indication before he enters the chamber.
After the dust settles on who holds the majority, the clerk will ask nominations from the House. If only one person is nominated, an acclamation will be done and the fellow sworn in as Speaker. But with both parties serving notice of nominating Professor Maikwe and Alban Bagbin, the clerk will allow for nominations from the two sides. This will be like the situation in 2005 when the NPP led by Felix Owusu-Ejapon nominated Ebenezer Bejinasech Hughes, while the NDC led by Alban Bagbin nominated Peter Alajite.
Mr. Chairman, it's my great privilege and honor to stand before this august body and House to propose Ebenezer Bejinasech Hughes as the Speaker for this Parliament of ours. I stand here to urge my colleagues to support my proposal that we elect as Speaker Mr. Peter Alajite.
With the NPP and NDC having an even split of the seats in Parliament, Citi News sources have revealed that leaders from the two sides are intensifying efforts at getting the numbers to win the votes. The election will be held through a secret balloting chaired by the Clerk of Parliament. After voting, the candidate with a majority of votes will be declared and sworn in by the Chief Justice. The Speaker will then take his seat and swear in the members of Parliament. The succeeding events will include the election of the two Deputy Speakers of Parliament who are supposed to be MPs but not to be from the same party. In the Fourth Republic, the NPP and NDs have shared these positions among themselves, except for the Fourth Parliament when the NPP used its majority to deny the NDC that title, after the latter nominated a candidate to challenge the former's choice. Citi News' sources indicate that the NPP's choice for Deputy Speaker is between current First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Wusu and Minister of Railways Development Joe Gatti. It is unclear who will be nominated by the NDC, as current Second Deputy Speaker Alban Bagbin is going out of Parliament and might be nominated for the Speakership position.
President Akufo-Addo began his delivery on the message on the State of the Nation with a call for the observance of a minute of silence in honor of the passing of the first president of the Fourth Republic, the late Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. The president, having steered the affairs of the country through a global pandemic, touched on its achievements in the health sector.
COVID-19 has presented us with the opportunity to resolve some long-standing problems in the health sector. We have taken steps to resolve the problem of infrastructure deficit in the healthcare system once and for all, with the exemption of Agenda 111 and the start of the building of hospitals around the country. We are upgrading district hospitals where they exist and establishing new ones where they do not.
One of the defining issues of the president's tenure is the fight against illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. President Akufo-Addo called for an open conversation about the menace.
We have to talk about Galamsey. We who are leaders owe it to the country to take the subject out of the party political arena and have an honest conversation about this menace to our future.
He also touched on the just ended election where Ghanaians gave him the mandate to serve a second term.
It is good for the nation that in the end he chose the legal path instead of the pockets of violence that have attended the rejection of the results by his party in the period after the elections. We all have to make a deliberate decision to invest in the rule of law and uphold the integrity of the institutions of our state so that no person or group of persons take the law into their own hands with impunity.
We had the interesting reports curated from the week with regards to the major issues in Parliament, as well as with a spot of education as what the processes throughout the transition period, what they really mean. That's what we brought to you during the recap segment. But we'll take a break here. When I come back, we'll take you to the From the Floor segment where we'll go in depth into the issues.
Happy New Year. During the festive season, we brought you moments that I've spent with diplomats who are representing their countries right here in Ghana.
The plantains with, how do you call you make them hot.
The kelewele.
Yes, the kelewele, yes, kelewele, yes.
Of years that it's here, but we are only a small portion. We're walking on history.
In these COVID times, and viewers, do forgive me, I've taken my mask off because I've been walking for a while and I was beginning to struggle to breathe.
This COVID has changed everything that we ever known.
This is good though.
Oh.
So you grew up eating this?
It's the business.
What's it made of?
Let's talk about that later. Enjoy it first.
Starting with these, the four either statuettes.
So it looks like a band. Somebody's playing the drum, the guitar. Is it the saxophone? Yeah.
As we continue the rerun of Diplomatic License here on Citi TV, every Saturday at 5 p.m., join me, Apioko, as I spend time exploring the cultures of the different nations that are represented right here in Ghana.
That's kind of cynical. I mean, because I'm not sure that all that we have done have necessarily been to the benefit of middle class or wealthy people. So we will get to that.
Tune in to The Point of View this and every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. as I, Bernard Avle, get the right guests, ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you.
When MDB came, because they were not putting money in the sinking fund.
They were not putting money in the sinking fund?
Yes.
That's why this curve is going up.
The money was going to the sinking fund, but it was not being applied to debt. I think that there's a lot of apocryphal conspiracy theories around. And it's not different from 5G causes COVID-19 and things like that. So there's been this long-term held belief that somehow there are some people that have planned that they will bust hundreds of thousands of people to come and change Ghanaian electoral outcome. There is no evidence for it. There is absolutely no evidence for it.
I am saying that we have very professional herbalists in this country whose capacity I know because I've tried it. But also there are quack ones within them. And the earlier we weed them out, the better for them.
Remember, The Point of View is live every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. only on Citi TV.
The Point of View is powered by Airtel Tigo. Have you heard that Airtel Tigo calls from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and Airtel Tigo money transfers are now free on new SIMs? Now you know. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
It was cast in stone that the election of the new Speaker of Parliament will witness some level of drama. The events after the December 7 election did give a clue, as the two major parties with equal number of seats claimed to have attained majority. But the activities from midnight of January 7, which dragged an election between two candidates for more than 8 hours, shocked many Ghanaians. Even before the first meeting of the House could begin, words were out there that the two parties had calmed their members in order to whip them in line to vote for their preferred candidates. This was somehow confirmed when members of the two parties began arriving in hired buses. The NDC MPs arrived in a unified manner and quickly took their seats to the right side of the Speaker's position to convince themselves and Ghanaians that they won majority of seats in Parliament. This was the beginning of the unending drama that was witnessed throughout the process of electing the Speaker.
The members of the NDC caucus are actually seated at the right-hand side of the Speaker and indicating that they have formed the majority in the House. If you look clearly also near the dais, near the box of the House, which usually houses and keeps the mace of Parliament, you can see that the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who is the leader of the NDC caucus in the House, is caught up in a conversation with other senior members of the MPP caucus. I can see
the NPP members after this started arriving, but unlike their counterparts, they did not come in their full numbers at the same time. Outnumbered, the first batch did not argue with the NDC MPs, but silently took their seats on the left side meant for the minority. The entry of Katie Hammond, NPP MP for Asokwa, however, changed the atmosphere as he shouted at the NDC MPs to vacate from the seats.
Katie Hammond, who was rumored to be out of the jurisdiction, has come in and is actually, shouting out instructions to the minority to move. He's a known rabble-rouser in the House.
Is he the senior most MP in the Parliament now?
Very, very, very interesting. Telling them that they should move. They should move. So he's pushing out instructions like.
And asking them.
That's Kwabena Donko, his very good friend.
Kwabena Donko, his best friend.
From primary school, yes, his best friend.
MP
from primary school.
MP for Swami and Majority Leader Duke Mensah Opoku and other NPP MPs attempted talking to the NDC MPs to vacate their seats, but all these proved futile.
Maybe someone.
Is it a fight?
Yeah, that's right. They are dragging someone, pushing someone.
Wow.
A lady is being. Yeah,
what's going on?
Kasua.
How Akumsin?
Yeah, that's right. How Akumsin is.
So, viewers, these are live pictures from the floor. It looks like a loud argument. We haven't seen any blows yet. So, thankfully, we've seen in other countries people throwing shoes and things.
Eventually, the NPP MPs compromised and maintained the seats usually meant for the minority. Shortly after that, the clerk to Parliament, who acted as chairman, walked in and officially opened the first meeting of the 8th Parliament. As expected, he opened nominations for the speakership position.
Honourable members-elect, Clause 1 of Article 95 of the 1992 Constitution requires that a Speaker of Parliament be elected by members of Parliament from among persons who are members of Parliament or qualified to be elected as members of Parliament. May I also refer you to Standing Order 8.4.
MP for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, nominated Alban Bagwin, but before the nomination could be seconded, Ifutu MP Alexander Apenyo-Marken raised preliminary objection. The resultant effect of this was a stalling of the process for more than 2 hours. The frustrations could be seen on the face of the clerk, who simply wanted to carry out his duties. The clerk later confirmed that an injunction notice had been served on him in respect to the Asen North MP-elect. Order was restored and proceedings continued. In the end, the two sides nominated Professor Maikwe and Alban Bagwin. The stage was set for voting through secret balloting. Shortly after voting began, the process was disrupted again, as some NDC MPs accused the NPP of breaching the secrecy of ballot rule, a situation that resulted in the destruction of election materials.
The MP wanted to show the vote to the MPP whip, and so Muntaka had to go in to prevent him from doing so. So that's what I just saw.
There's a real fight. There's a real fight. This is unsightly. MPs, fully grown members of Parliament, kicking ballot boxes, pushing down voting booths because they insist this is hooliganism on display.
Some soldiers were later seen storming the plenary in an attempt to maintain law and order. That intrusion by the military has since been condemned by a number of Ghanaians.
The clerk has been escorted out by policemen, and the NDC minority, the NDC caucus are trying as much as possible to get the military men out.
There they are chanting the words of the national anthem. Oh, this is so poor. This is not what we expected coming here today. And they appear resolute. None of them is sitting. They are all standing, pushing what they believe is right, whilst the members of the MPP side are comfortably seated and observing proceedings. This really is so poor.
Following from this, the voting process was restarted. All MP-elects took turns to cast their ballots. Even the Senate MP-elect voted despite the injunction slapped on him. Sooner than later, the election was over and counting began. The ballot box to be counted first was that of Professor Maikwe, followed by that of Alban Bagwin. In the process, the MP for Tema West snatched some ballot papers, which also stalled the process.
Someone has taken the ballot papers. Someone has taken the uncounted ballot papers. Is that Carlos Ahinkra? That's Carlos Ahinkra, isn't it, of Tema West? And he's been attacked.
Leadership of the House was then forced to go into a meeting to address the situation. They returned with a resolution, and the clerk declared Alban Bagwin as the new Speaker of the 8th Parliament.
An unfortunate incident happened in the process leading to the declaration of the results of the election of the Speaker, out of which leadership held some consultations. Accordingly, I have the honor to declare Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagwin as Speaker-elect.
His swearing-in took place, and he in turn swore in the NP's elect.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of Ghana,
as
by law established,
that I will uphold
the sovereignty and integrity of Ghana, and that I will preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So help me God.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana, as by law established. That I will uphold.
Joseph Osewusu of the NPP and Andrea Makwesiama, independent MP for Fomena, were later appointed as first and second deputy speakers respectively.
I now declare the honorable member for the Kwai constituency duly elected as the first deputy speaker of this house.
Members of the MPP caucus are seated at the right-hand side of the Speaker. As you may be aware, there has been intense haggling and dispute over who is the majority side, who is the minority side. There have been a series of meetings. Some say there has been some conclusion to that. Others say there is some dispute with regards to that. But the numbers, according to the EC, as proclaimed and as the rate per the rates that was submitted to the Clerk of Parliament on the 7th of January 2021, the NDC has 137 seats, the MPP has 137 seats, and then there is the independent candidate who is the second deputy speaker, Andrew Amwaku Isiama. Now, he has written to the Speaker earlier in the week indicating that he will do business with the NPP caucus in Parliament. But we are told, as you can see, the NPP members are clad in white, sitting at the right-hand side of the Speaker, indicating that they are in the majority. Members of the NPP caucus have been here from as early as 4 a.m., we are told. 4 a.m. And they've been seated, at least more than 100 of them are actually seated. Now the numbers are increasing, the numbers are inching up, and close to the now 137 seats that they have are all here. We've seen some of the NDC members here as well, but only one of them, as we speak, is seated. I've been joined by some members of the NPP caucus to bring us up to speed what really has informed their decision to actually come here as early as possible to occupy these seats.
I think this is a culture that we should encourage in this country. I believe that being here as early as 6 or before then is a working habit. And as a majority side, most of us, we had a majority caucus, especially for the first timers. We had a meeting much earlier before this sitting. So for me, there's nothing wrong with that. We want to develop a good habit of coming to the house early. And of course, we believe that there's a landmark decision as far as the house is concerned today, where the Speaker will be called upon to rule. Because we know the brouhaha surrounding who takes the right-hand side of the Speaker. I mean, you are a media person. If not for that, you wouldn't have been here yourself. Why are you here? If we are in normal times, you would have come here around 8 o'clock. But today you're also here by 6 o'clock. What it means is that you've picked the intel. We've come to the house much earlier to take our rightful place because we were appalled to see the minority taking the majority seat when we first walked in on the 6th of January. And we don't want to condone that anymore. So we've come to take our rightful place. And we want to see them come to get us of the place. Until the Speaker rules, we've taken our rightful place. And I'm happy that we've complied with the directives of the majority chief whip, and then everybody, including 4-time members of Parliament who have shown solidarity and been with us the first time, the backbenchers to come to take our rightful place. And I think that our colleagues on the other side, in fact, they didn't do well by taking the right-hand side of the Speaker and keep arguing that they form majority. On what basis? Only God can tell.
What time did you get here today?
Well, I got here around 4:20 a.m. This morning. The reason is quite simple. We are here just to take our rightful place at the chamber. As you rightly put it, on 6th of January, midnight, when we got here, the NDC, which is the minority, had occupied the right-hand side of the Speaker, which by convention is reserved for the majority. So this time around, we decided that we come in early and take our rightful place.
But is this sustainable? Is this going to be the new fashion? Whoever comes, whichever caucus comes here early, gets to be the majority, or what? I mean, is this a sustainable practice to keep up with?
I think the question as to which side of the divide is a majority or minority is settled. I mean, the Speaker this morning, we are told, will be officially ruling on that. As you are aware, the independent candidate, Honorable Siama, has written officially to the Speaker, copied 1, copied 2, the leader of the MPP, indicating his preference and the fact that he intends to do business with the MPP. That makes us the majority. I mean, there's no dispute about that. And so the question as to whether it's sustainable or not, it has to be sustainable because we are the majority. And so subsequently from Monday or from Tuesday when we come to Parliament, we will be sitting on the right side of the Speaker.
What time did you get here today?
A few minutes to 4 a.m.
You were here before 4 a.m.?
Yeah.
Why? When you know that business begins at 10 a.m.
I didn't want what prevailed the other day to be repeated because Ghanaians were not happy with the house. So anything that we're supposed to do tactically to ensure that we don't repeat that unfortunate incident, we had to, and I decided to come.
So you would say that tactically, you were outmuscled. Your strategy, the NDC had a superior strategy on the 7th. That's how come whatever happened there.
Oh, I wouldn't say superior. I think what they did, if you were here, was not right. I think we have strategic drift, and then we have strategic fit. You can have strategy, but then it will not address the goal that you want to attain in a manner that will serve the interests of society. That is what prevailed the other day. And I think at a point in time, they got us pulled along the antisocial behavior. So all of us will have to apologize to Ghanaians. I felt that wasn't good. And going forward, we need to let Ghanaians know that we mean business more than what prevailed. So we decided to come here. And I think the most important thing is that at least today we have taken our rightful positions before the proceedings in the House. And I think that is what matters. That's what we wanted to achieve, and we have been able to achieve.
Now we have members of the NDC caucus who are actually trickling in now. I can count over 15 now. 15 of them now seated. And unlike their colleagues from the MPP caucus, it looks like strategy-wise, the MPP caucus seems to be ahead of them today. But at 10 a.m., we're expecting, which is about 15 minutes away from now, we're expecting that the Speaker would walk in, Speaker Bagbin would walk in, proceedings will begin. He would be invited to make a declaration on who is a minority and who is a majority based on the consensus that has been built, or based actually on the various discussions that have gone on in the back room or background discussions. The Speaker and his retinue of officials walked into the chamber a few minutes to midnight. After prayers were said, the Speaker read communication from the Presidency and proceeded to deliver his opening remarks, which condemned the acts of rancor before his election and the new path to be charted by the 8th Parliament.
In case we are at a loss as to what this means for the substance of the work we must do here in this House, you and I would do well to refer to the directive principles of state policy contained in Chapter 6 of the Constitution. The directive principles of state policy stands as a constant reminder to us of what duty Parliament and members owe individually and collectively to our dear country and its people.
Right Honorable Alban Bagbin read the letter from the independent member from Fomena in the House and subsequently declared which group is the majority in the House.
I do hereby affirm that I shall cooperate and collaborate with the MPP caucus in the 8th Parliament. Dated this 30th day of January, 2021. Yours faithfully, signed, Honorable Andrew Esiama Amwako, MP, Formula Constituency, and copy to the leader of the MPP caucus. Honorable members, with this official declaration to the House will accord him the space to do as he has stated.
The House went ahead to constitute the Committee of Selection. Newsroom, we are still engaging members of Parliament. Most of them are French entrants, the new entrants of Parliament. We're engaging some of them to find out what they make of the happenings here, as well as, what they make of their first few days in Parliament and other related matters. I've been joined by the Honourable Elizabeth Fosuejare, Member of Parliament for Teshima North. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are no stranger to the public space. You served as a minister under the John Mahama administration, but now you're in Parliament. How's the feeling like? How different is it from what you were doing previously?
Okay, this is great. Previously, I served as a Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative now. Now I'm serving as the Member of Parliament for Teshima North. Here, I feel responsible for the people of Teshima North, and I think the mandate on me is specific, and I really have to live up to that expectation.
This Parliament. It's very young, but it's very famous for a lot of things. Today, I mean, there was a spillover from what happened previously. Today, some of your colleagues from the other side had to come here as early as 4 a.m. and all of that, but that has been settled. What do you make of the happenings in the Parliament which you are part of so far?
Okay, I will say that today has been great. The NDC side came in at 9:30 to 10, which is when Parliament starts, and I know that's about the correct time you get here. And so far, you see that proceedings went on smoothly, and I am expecting that we work together as a team because, once you get to Parliament, the partisanship has to come down for the collective good of Ghanaians. I'm sure people voted for us, for example, as Elizabeth Ofusejare from Techman North. I know people other than NDC voted for me. So the collective is more important, and I think going forward, we have to work together to ensure that the benefits that will come from Parliament were near to the whole Ghanaian population.
Which committees would you like to serve on? What are the areas of interest that you would like to have your imprint on whilst you're in Parliament?
I would like to work on something legal. As a lawyer, I would like to work on committees that deal with law, like the Constitutional Committee or the Standing Orders Committee.
No tourism? With your background as tourism minister?
Jifa is also here. She can deal with tourism, and then I will deal more with law because that's my background.
On the events that happened on the night, you were very, very vociferous. You were quite in the thick of events on what happened on that day. What do you make of the 8th Parliament is just 2 sittings old, but already it's made a lot of waves. What do you make of the happening so far in this Parliament?
Well, I think that the happenings so far are evident of how the 8th Parliament is going to be. It's going to be a very, very vibrant Parliament. It's not going to be a rubber stamp Parliament as usual. It's not going to be business as usual because unless you are moved by the national interest, nothing will work in the 8th Parliament. That is to say that if the opposition want to toe partisan lines, then no government business can go on. If government also want to be unreasonable and want to stick to party lines, it's likely they wouldn't be able to achieve anything. It's going to be more of cooperation and working with one another in order for us to move forward. And I think that right from the word go, what happened on the night of 6th to 7th is clear evidence of the need for cooperation in this 8th Parliament. So we are just 2 days, 2 hearings old. But already you can see what is happening. If you look at today, you look at the report on constitution of committees. It's a very split, committee. It's going to be about 9-10, and that's a very, very split committee. So working is going to be based on cooperation and collaboration and consensus building rather than whipping somebody up to one particular location or one particular direction.
Any particular committees you would like to serve on?
Well, that is not under it is not up to me to decide. I've given my CVs to our leaders. I'm looking forward to them looking at my expertise. I've done something in oil and gas law. I have an economic policy management background. Of course, law as a general background that I have. I believe that each of them entitles me to some committee. What is most important is I'm willing to make my knowledge available to serve in any of the committees for the interest of Ghana to be served.
Well, it's been very interesting, from the very day we were sworn in, and this is our 2nd day, and I've sat down listening to proceedings, and it tells me that the future is bright and that all of us will have to get involved.
So far, the 2 sittings have been very exciting and insightful. There were a few challenges, but by the end of the day, we've been able to resolve the challenges, and now we are on course to do business for Ghana.
Okay. There are some who say that with all the happenings on the night, there should have been some parliamentary probe inquiry into it. What do you make of that?
I think it is not necessary to have any inquiries. You see, tempers were high because each of us was determined to ensure that we protect the democracy that we have and ensure that Ghanaians are heard adequately. So the zeal to ensure that we do our best for our constituencies led to some of these minor scuffles.
Okay. Which committees would you like to serve on?
Being a lawyer and a teacher for many years, I'm versatile and I'm prepared to serve on any committee that I'll be privileged to serve on. But particularly, I think I would leave that one for the leadership to determine my suitability.
Which committees would you like to serve on?
Well, I think that I should be ready to serve on any committee that I'm put on. I am a media person. I'm a trained journalist. I have practiced as an entrepreneur for hospitals, having the largest private mortuary in Ghana, owning the largest conglomerate of hospitals, and so the health is also an area I can serve on. And then I have done a bit of work with local government, and so any of the committees that I'll be put on, I think I should be ready to serve.
Are you part of those who think that based on what happened on the morning of 7 January, there should have been a full-scale parliamentary probe instituted into what transpired?
Well, I think that I don't have any problem if anybody is calling for a full parliamentary probe, because if you look at it, I mean, it all started from other side, and so it will be important we look at it and set the standards that if we're going to do balloting, if we're going to do voting, and it's claimed that we have to do it by secret balloting, and the HRIP system is invoked, what happens? You know, there's an experience that needs to be interpreted well, and I think that a full-scale investigations would let us unravel what needs to be done. Otherwise, one would also want to say that we should let sleeping dogs lie, since we have actually gone away from it, and we're settling to do normal business.
There are those with untold stories, unraveled feats, life-changing stories, and lasting legacies. They tell their stories themselves on footprints. Yes.
Oh, at some point, well, they are taking the step. Unfortunately, he was dragging the country into an abyss. Yeah. So we saw it. But they have held power, the guns and so forth. Who were we to? We just watched. But by, I believe, 74-5, the country was seeing through him. That this man was a total misfit.
But he was a happy man.
But because in Akan, there's a proverb. It's a kwasia na no so nsu a so twati.
Be inspired by their hard work and resilience that led to their outstanding achievements as we trace their footsteps through time.
Lincoln, we have one of our, school member died or whatever, so we have to go there and perform during the funeral, whatever. And then I was feeling thirsty, so there was a. But those days, it's not like pure water or whatever. They sell the water in a bottle. Yeah, stuff like that. So there was a bottle there. I thought it was just a water. No, it was aquateshi, So I just took it. When I drank it, before I realized, Charlie. So what happened to me, I'm like, Charlie, I'll never touch. So since then, I've never touched alcohol.
Okay, so you didn't drink alcohol, and you never smoked?
Smoked, no way. No.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
Never.
Then who comes out of the car? Chachu Chikata and Kojo Chikata. And the Chachu told me that they have, Kojo was sick since the morning and he has been tortured and whatnot, and they have come for a medical attention. Of course, naturally I have to look after them, even though they are very close relatives. So I look at Kojo, I examine him, I notice that he's definitely been tortured. And there was blood, deep-seated blood in the ears. We can see that clearly.
So join me, Samuel Mensah, and my guests every Saturday at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m. for Footprints, only on Citi TV.
Footprint is sponsored by Bethel Logistics Company Limited, experts in shipping logistics.
Hello and welcome back from the break. This is Duke's View, and this week a couple of issues I want to address. First has got to do with the Professor Yan Tiamoabedu Presidential Committee on Emoluments report that was placed before the 7th Parliament. Yes, I'm talking about a report that made recommendations on the gratuities, popularly known as the ex gratia, that must be paid members of Parliament. In 2 separate meetings in camera, it was approved for members. We don't know how much they approved. We don't know what they said in that meeting. Of course, when it comes to issues of welfare and issues relating to the payment for members of Parliament, they always do it behind closed doors. They don't want us to know what goes on with regards to it. But that's okay. I'm just saying that the committee report is a public document. It's a public document. So I call on the leadership of Parliament and indeed the entire public and the state to release that report, make that report public for everybody, for every Ghanaian to have access to it. Why? Because it is our taxpayers' money that is going to be used to pay those monies. It's our taxes, the tax of the entire citizenry that is going to be used to pay these officers of state, not only members of Parliament, but members of the executive as well. Because the Constitution states that it's the executive that determines what the legislature will take, or the legislature will take, and the legislature then determines what the executive will take. Some kind of convenient symbiotic relationship. We've heard all sort of figures, from 400,000 to 600,000 to 12% increment to 11.5% increment in salaries and allowances and gratuities for members of Parliament of the 7th Parliament. We are not asking for much on this platform. All we want is for that report to be made public in the interest of accountability, in the public interest. Again, let's look at the events when the whole nation was looking at Parliament at the dawn of 7th January. The actions that I'm really finding, I'm trying hard to find palatable words to express, but I can't find any. It was just crass. It was unfortunate. The things that happened on the floor of Parliament, the unparliamentary conduct, the insults, the near fisticuffs, the sheer breakdown of law and order and discipline, to the point that an assault on our democracy had to be committed by bringing in men from the military, which also turned into something else. The snatching of ballot papers, the booting of ballot boxes and voting booths. All of these things desecrate. They bring into disrepute the very essence of our democracy and Parliament. And I'm sure we've all seen the kind of reportage that the members of Parliament worked so hard to give Ghana our image in the international media this week. From the BBC to Al Jazeera to African News to CNN. I'm sure we've all seen. Fostering an indelible dent on the hard-won reputation and image of this country. The incidents of the dawn of 7th January. It should never happen again in the annals of the country's history. But I think we need to point out, for what it's worth, there must be a full-scale parliamentary probe into the incidents that morning, so that whoever has to be suspended must be suspended. We've even seen footage of officers of Parliament doing something that can never be said to be right. But we all saw that there should be a full-scale inquiry, a probe instituted into the things that happened. And that's your first task, Speaker Babin. That's your first litmus test. That's your first test. The incidents that occurred the dawn of 7th January. There should be a full-scale parliamentary probe into it. Those who are supposed to be suspended should be suspended. Those who must be punished, because such unparliamentary conduct must not go unpunished. And that's how we end Duke's View. That's how we wrap up this week's edition of the Chamber Radio on Citi TV. Next week we'll bring you a playback of this, because throughout next week Parliament will not be sitting. They will sit only on Friday. But we're still here to serve you the very best in the 8th Parliament, which promises to be nothing but intriguing and interesting. Stay with Citi TV.
Hi, my name is Paul Kofi Mante. So we discussed the subject matter, resilient family finances, this morning on the Effective Living series, and I'm here to give you a summary of the discussion.